Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to review a David Bowie album again. It's one I did review a few years ago as one of my early videos, and as people keep pointing out, my early videos, well, and I acknowledge they leave a lot to be desired, lo-fi and all the rest of it. So I did review this album 5 or 6 years ago, but I think I did it in a dark room in another part of the house, so I'm going to try and do it justice now. It's Scary Monsters is the name of the album. It came out on the 12th of September 1980. And for the most part, it was the same band as had played on the previous few albums, including George Murray bass, Dennis Davis drums, Carlos Alomar guitar. Joined on this album by Robert Fripp from King Crimson on guitar and Roy Bittan on keyboards, as well as David Bowie guitar keyboards. So Roy Bittan, amazingly, in the space of 18 months, played on this album, Making Movies by Dire Straits, The River, Bruce Springsteen, and some of Stevie Nicks' early solo work. So he was a kind of much in demand session guy. So I thought that was quite interesting. This album got to #1 in the UK and #12 in the US. And this was somewhat a recovery for Bowie in the US, at least, because Lodger had only reached #20, Heroes had only reached #35, although Low did reach #11. Station to Station had reached #3. In the UK, he'd been pretty consistently successful with the last few albums. Station to Station reached 5, Low #2, Heroes 3, Lodger 4, and as I said, Scary Monsters #1. So I remember buying this album, if not as soon as it came out, then certainly I had it by Christmas, and I was struck by the cover. It's one of these records I lost along the way, or I lent it to someone and never got it back. So I picked this particular copy up, as you can see, for just £7 from Reckless Records in Berwick Street in London, and made sure it had the insert, of course, with the lyrics. If you're looking for a second-hand copy, make sure it has that. Which folds out into a gatefold thing here. Always nice to have the lyrics, which we hadn't had on the previous few albums. As far as I can remember, we hadn't had the lyrics on almost any Bowie album up till this point. I may be wrong. There may be a couple where I think maybe Scary Monsters. Sorry, not Scary Monsters. Ziggy Stardust had the lyrics. But I'm struggling to think of any of the other albums having the lyrics. I'm just thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from Ziggy onwards, I think this was the first album featuring the lyrics. So Ashes to Ashes was the lead-off single, absolutely stunning. And by the way, I've been watching the TV series Ashes to Ashes, which is loosely based, well, it's not based on this song, on the song Ashes to Ashes, but it does refer, it's basically a story of a detective inspector, Alex Drake, who gets shot and sent back in time to 1981. And Ashes to Ashes, the clown in the video for Ashes to Ashes keeps on appearing and, you know, saying spooky things like, I'm happy, hope you're happy too. So worth checking out there. That series starring Keely Hawes and Philip Glenister was a sequel to Life on Mars, also based on another David Bowie song, which had starred John Sim in the lead role. So that's just a bit of trivia for you. Ashes to Ashes, guess what it replaced? Guess what it dethroned as the #1 spot in the UK? I just read this the other day. It was The Winner Takes It All from ABBA, so that's interesting. Fashion was the second single, got to #5. And I have to say, outstanding videos for both Ashes to Ashes and Fashion. Check them out on YouTube, I think they're available. Ashes to Ashes, way ahead of its time in terms of the imagery in the lake and with the clown. And then he's in a room all on his own, and just very moving video. And the one for Fashion is almost as good, and it features Carlos Alomar and various other people, not the rest of the band from this album, and also features May Pang, who was shortly to be married to Tony Visconti, who's the producer of this album. But the album did also feature 2 more singles. Scary Monsters was a reasonable hit number 20 in the UK, and Up the Hill Backwards got to a creditable 32, which is not bad for a 4th single. That came out in March '81. The Ultimate Music Guide has an essay on this album from John Robinson, and it's a pretty well written essay. As always with the track markings that they give, one disagrees and agrees depending on one's viewpoint. It gives 4 stars to It's No Game Part 1, Up the Hill Backwards, the title track, Teenage Wildlife, Scream Like a Baby, and then 5 stars to Because You're Young, It's No Game Part 2, Ashes to Ashes, and Fashion. Anything below that? Yeah, Kingdom Come has 3 stars. Well, I agree that Kingdom Come is the weakest track on the album by quite a distance. It's a cover song, and it does kind of fit here in terms of style, but it's a fairly innocuous, or anonymous, should I say, song, and I struggle to remember it. You know, I listen to it and then forget how it goes completely, and then have to go back to it to remember anything about it at all, really, which is not a good sign, really. Scream Like a Baby has quite a catchy chorus, and is quite an enjoyable song, but I think those 2 are the tracks which are not top drawer completely, but the rest of the album is incredibly consistent. And side 1, this is the back cover, by the way. So, by the way, the photographer who took these photos of David in the clown costume and stuff for the video, apparently, I don't know if I can get his name quickly, I didn't write it down, but yeah, it's a guy called Edward Bell who did the cartoons for the cover, and a photographer called Duffy, and apparently the photographer was upset that his photos were made into cartoon form because they didn't do it justice. So I think that's a bit precious of him, because I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant cover, and on the back you can see very interestingly the cover of Low here, the cover of Heroes here, and the cover of Lodger there. So I think that's just those 3, yeah. So, brilliant cover. And where was I? Was I going to go through the tracks? Yeah, no, I was just talking about this Ultimate Music Guide. It gives Because You're Young 5 star, which I probably would give it 4 stars, but it is a song, listening to this album, or re-listening to this album in preparation for this review, I think it's gone up in my estimation. There's a funny story to go with it. Pete Townsend was asked to come and contribute guitar, and he turned up in a bad mood apparently, and just said to Tony Visconti and David Bowie, what do you want? And they said, Pete Townsend chords. So he played on the session, and his final contribution was mixed very low in the mix. So I guess he was either playing a bit roughly or was a bit drunk or something, but anyway, not too impressive in the end, so they didn't use much of his contribution. But that vocal on Because You're Young reminded me quite a bit of Boys Keep Swinging from Lodger. Similar vocal style and similar concept in the lyric, if you like, about, you know, when you're young and the things you get up to and stuff. It's quite an interesting parallel, because for the most part on this album he's not singing in the same way as on Lodger. He's developed a kind of unique style of vocal. I think I can call it unique, because I haven't heard him sing this well before or since. I would say that, I'd go far as to say that. I really think it's his singing on It's No Game Part 1, where he's virtually screaming the words, is absolutely sensational, and he's joined on vocals by Michi Hirota, who's virtually shouting the lyrics quite aggressively in Japanese. And the combination of her shouting or saying very loudly the words in Japanese, and David Bowie screaming the words in the background in English is very effective. And I can't help thinking that John Lennon, he would have heard this album because it came out 3 months before he died. He would have heard it, and he was very complimentary about Bowie in the Andy Peebles interview of 6th of December 1980. So I think he would have been mightily impressed with this effort from David, and no more so than on this opening track, It's No Game, because the singing is quite reminiscent of Plastic Ono Band, if one's observant. I think that's the case, for me anyway. So then that's a brilliant guitar from Robert Fripp and Carlos Alomar. They just combine really nicely on this album, and Robert Fripp, I guess, is playing the lead on this song, and it's just very effective. Up the Hill Backwards is one of those album tracks which is not that well known outside the fan base, although it was a minor hit single. And it's just, whenever I'm in a tough situation at work or something, and I have to make a remark about what a bad situation we're in, I keep on saying, yeah, it's like running up the hill backwards, which is a direct quote from this song, or not the running bit, but up the hill backwards. I think it's a wonderfully evocative phrase about how things are going badly. You know, if you've ever tried running up a hill backwards, it's not easy. So I think it's a good lyric, and it's a great, nice rhythm on this track. So that I gave both of those tracks 5 stars, and then the title track I would give 4 stars. It's very energetic, and on any other album it might have been the standout track, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, compared to all the nuggets on side 1, it's not quite the strongest track. It is the least strong track, shall we say, in my opinion. David is affecting this Cockney accent and playing that up a bit. He is from London, or from Kent, I think, but he doesn't speak like that normally, but he's kind of affecting this Cockney accent for the purposes of this song, and it's quite effective. Which brings us on to Ashes, and it's just a sublime song and a sublime video, as I mentioned. I was listening to it in the car today, and I noticed that electric piano in the verses, which is always been there, but I hadn't really noticed how effective it is. I guess it's Roy Bittan playing that, or it might be Bowie himself. And just a wonderful arrangement with that great rhythm section of George Murray and Dennis Davis, and some great keyboard work and synthesizer work, great production all round, so nice job to the team on that. And then Fashion is just a superb song. Play this one loud, listen to me, talk to me, don't talk to me, dance with me, don't dance with me, no, beep, beep, just wonderful. Five stars for that, 5 stars for Ashes to Ashes. Turn the record over and we get Teenage Wildlife, which is kind of reminiscent of Heroes in a way, in the instrumentation and the guitar kind of playing in the background, but it doesn't have a chorus, which is interesting. Described in this magazine as a Bruce Springsteen pastiche, which I hadn't really thought of, but I guess it might be. Interesting song, almost top notch, give it 4 stars. Scream Like a Baby, as I said, I would give that maybe 3.5. Kingdom Come 3 or 2.5. Because You're Young, 4 stars. And then It's No Game Part 2. It's just it's a slowed down version of the same song which opens the album, and whoever's idea it was to bookend the album with these 2 versions is just an absolute masterpiece. Silhouettes and Shadows, Watch the Revolution, No More Free Steps to Heaven. And then the last verse, children round the world put camel shit on the wall. Yeah, it's someone said he sounds like, what's his name? Lust for Life. I've forgotten the guy's name now. Iggy Pop, that's it. But anyway, it's written by Bowie. All these songs are written by Bowie alone, I think, apart from Kingdom Come, which is written by Tom Verlaine. I'm just trying to see if he co-writes any of the songs. Nope, it's solo Bowie all the way, and a wonderful album. Again, and I think I've said this before, but it's very noticeable that side 1 is superior to side 2, and that's the case with Love Over Gold from Dire Straits, as I reviewed the other day, and it's the case with a lot of albums, or I guess some albums, side 2 is stronger than side 1, but in general, the first side tends to be the stronger side of the 2, although I don't want to generalise because we can get into a debate on that. I'll have to do some research and get back to you, but that was Scary Monsters, one of my favourite, if not my favourite David Bowie album. It's not quite a magnum opus because not every track is 5-star, but enough of them are 5-star to make it an absolutely essential album in his catalogue. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.